Okay, so we're now going to look at some of the ways that we can display the data, kind of some of those graph ideas that we've seen before, but now we're going to look at it on our frequency distribution. So the first one that we're going to talk about is what's called a histogram. And basically a histogram is a bar graph. The only main big difference here is histograms, the bars touch each other because they're based on our classes. And when one class stops, the next class starts, there's no gaps. I shouldn't have any gaps in my histogram either. So when we're looking at this, our class width will be across the bottom, and then we can either use frequency or relative frequency up the side. Okay, so we're going to take a look here at a couple of examples. We're going to start with number 4 over here, and I realize that I've got, my lovely little answer key version here. But here's what we're looking at. So on number 4, it asks me how many classes there are. So first off, this is a histogram. Notice that our bars are touching. Okay, so if I want to know how many classes there are, I'm just going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we have 11 classes for this set. Then it wants to know what is the class width. So we take a look from the start of 1. We'll subtract the previous. So we got 64 minus 63 is 1. So that is my class width. Okay. Now it asks which class has the highest frequency. So we're looking at which one has the highest bar. It's this first one, which is 63 to 64. Now this is what I have to count it as. Know that depending upon how they were counting, this could be like 63 to 63.9 or 63.99, but we're going to go off at 63 to 64. And then ask what percent of students are 70 inches taller or more. So we're going to do 70 and upwards. So this first group has 8 in it. The next group has 5 in it. The next one has 4. And then that last one has 7. So if we add all that up, we've got 4 is 9, 17, 24 total here. And then it told us in the beginning that there were 100 individuals. So it's going to be 0.24 or 24%. Okay. Now, we're also going to go over, okay, to look at a different one. We're going to look at a tabled version if they actually give us our frequency table. And again, all of these are on those worksheets that I provide for you in Canvas. So this one again asks how many classes there are. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 classes. We're going to look now with this one. We're going to grab that second lower limit, which is 4, and I'm going to subtract the first lower limit. Okay, and so that's going to give me 3. So that's my class width. Then it asks what percentage of students play video games for less than 22 hours. So I'm going to add up all the categories that have less than 22. So it's going to be 28, 32, 47, 40, or excuse me, 25, 22, 19, and 12. And when we add all that up, we get 185. They originally told us that there were 200 people included. So that is the decimal 0.925, which is 92.5% if they're asking for it. Now, the next one asks what percentage of students play video games for 19 hours or more. So I'm going to look at the 19 to 21.9 category and add 12, 10, 2, and 3. So I'm adding up those last categories. When we add that up, 22, 23, 24, 27. Again, out of 200. And that's going to give us the decimal 0.135, which is 13.5% if we're looking at that. Okay. Okay, so when we're looking at histograms here, if you do the frequency histogram or a relative frequency histogram, and this is the one that was for another set of that particulate emissions data, these two have a different scaling up the side, but again, the way that the bars are set up, which bars are the highest, which bars are lower, are all the same. It follows the same patterning for this. This is the same thing that we saw when we were doing qualitative data, that whether we use the frequency or the relative frequency should not matter as we're processing through, okay? Now, one of the questions that comes up is how many classes do we choose, okay? And there's not a real hard and fast rule for this. Now, generally it's between maybe 5 and 20. And the concern is that if I pick not enough groups, okay, to where everything's kind of lumped in like 3 or 4 categories, then I'm not going to have a whole lot of detail. But at the same time, I don't want to have something that has 40 groups, because then I only have a little bit. So any sort of patterns that I may be able to see are kind of minimized through that, okay? Now, one of the other things that I talked about was that sometimes they will ask you to create one of these frequency distributions, but they just tell you use, let's say, 6 classes. And they don't tell you what to do. So the way you're going to do this, kind of to get you a rough estimate of what your class width should be, you're going to take the highest data value, you're going to subtract the lowest data value, okay, and some of y'all may notice that as range, and then you're going to divide it by the number of classes that they ask you to do, okay? So if I had a data set, and I'm just going to make one up here. Okay, so, and I said I wanted, let's say 5 classes. Okay, so I'm going to do 21, because that's my biggest one, minus 2, and I'm going to divide by 5. So it's going to be 19 divided by 5. Now, when we do 19 divided by 5, we get 3.8. Now, I don't want to have to count my decimals, so I'm going to go ahead and send that up to 4. So when I would get my table started here, I would start at 2, then I'm going to add 4, so that would put me at 6, and then 10, and so on and so forth as we go. And then this one would stop at 5, this one would stop at 9, so on and so forth when I was getting ready to do that, okay? But again, there's not a hard and fast rule. Most of the time you will be told how many classes or what your class width is going to be, okay? And so I've got kind of a demonstration of this on this next one. Here, okay, they have done like by, I think it's by tenths here. And so we see lots of gaps because we don't have anything in that. And so we've got a very jagged looking appearance from this because everything is so spread out that I really can't see the patternings that are happening. But here, if I go from 0 to 2 and 2 to 4 and 4 to 6 and 6 to 8, I'm not able to see a lot of trending here other than it looks like, oh, well, it drops dramatically. Well, I don't know though if maybe this thing had some sort of kind of, it went up and then came back down, or if it just started real high and then came back down. We're not able to see what that is because we've got them clumped up in too few of a set. Now again, normally you will be told exactly how many classes to use or what your class width is going to be, and so it helps create the patterns for you.